I am Heather Terenzio with JFFLabs. I lead the apprenticeship cohort here at JFFLabs. Lauren and I together run the entrepreneurial programs here, and we're super excited today to have two members of our cohort, Keegan Moldenhauer and Brianna Brazle. We started this cohort, really wanted to dig into the business models of folks who were thinking about work-based learning and apprenticeships and how they're implementing that in the workplace. This cohort was a collaboration between JFFLabs and our Center for Apprenticeships and Work-Based Learning. And we're super excited to tell you a little bit about what we've learned over the past 6 months. So with that, why don't we just get started with some introductions. Keegan, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, your company, and why you decided to join the JFFLabs youth-based apprenticeships cohort.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Heather. Excited to share a little bit about our story and talk about how we're working in future of work and work-based learning. My name is Keegan Moldenhauer, co-founder and CEO of Internship on Demand. We started Internship on Demand really focused on the learner side of, specifically right now, college to career. I struggled to find my first internship. My co-founder did as well. I also had experience leading a student org and working as an adjunct faculty at Lakeland University in Wisconsin. Had a lot of time experiencing my own problems, struggling, but also know the hundreds of students that I worked with who struggled to find those first internship, professional experience opportunities, and really wanted to think about how can we solve at the very beginning of career and education that gap. And that's really what we're focused on for Internship on Demand. Excited to talk a little bit more in detail about that, but super focused on how do we solve that education to career gap.
Thank you, Keegan. Brianna.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for this opportunity. I'm excited to be here and to share a little bit more about Cultural Answer and what we're doing as well. I think similar to Keegan, we're really trying to solve that gap from college to career as well. My experience was a little bit different, and I'm solving it for the people who are like me, where it wasn't hard for me to get internships. It wasn't hard for me to get work-based experiences because I was in programming in school that gave me access to these opportunities. But when it came time for me to enter the workforce, I couldn't find employment. And historically, this is an issue. Students are graduating every year, and every year around the statistics of students being able to find equitable employment following graduation is around 48 to 52% every year. That's a huge issue. It's a crisis in my eyes. It's not just one that I experienced. It's one that my mom, my grandma, also friends of mine have experienced as well. So what we're really trying to solve is the lack of skill that employers are looking for that students are not graduating with. So we're trying to fill that gap in that way.
Thank you so much, Brianna. Keegan. Let's jump right in, and I'd love to learn more about you and let everybody know why you decided to start these companies. You're trying to solve some pretty big issues out there. We'd love to learn more about why you and why you thought you were uniquely positioned to help solve these issues.
Yeah, I think I alluded to it a little bit, but I just think that it is a shame that what is looked at as economic mobility for people, which is higher education, it doesn't do that for them. And in many cases, it puts them into bad economic spaces because there aren't adequate resources following that graduation. So I'm really passionate about solving that. A little bit about my background is I come from education. So I like to say I was forced into it following graduation because, becoming a teacher, they always are looking for teachers. So after I graduated, that's what I went into. I was a teacher for about 8 years, and I've done that in a variety of different age groups. And then following that, I went into counseling. So I had experience with career counseling, but then also just personal counseling with one-on-one individuals. And that really framed like my personal motto, where I'm on a mission to help people live fulfilling lives. In this stage of my life, that looks like economic mobility. And for me, that first answer to that is having equitable employment. So this is our way of doing that.
Yeah, I think similar to Brianna, I mean, seeing problems and trying to solve them. I think there's so much opportunity in this early career in education space because there are gaps in how college system prepares students to be good students, not necessarily good employees. I'm a mechanical engineering by training. I'm a glorified problem solver, right? So it was hard to see a problem and not try to solve it. And particularly my student organization leadership experience, my adjunct faculty experience, had a lot of time spent with students understanding that problem. Also, both of my parents are entrepreneurs, so it's kind of this, hey, you see a problem, you solve it, you own it, and you get going there. And I would not have said my passion and my career would have jumped into this kind of future of workspace. But here we are trying to make things happen and just trying to make an impact that solves a problem I had as a college student.
Awesome. It's certainly a noble cause. So love what you two are doing. My next question would be, how do you frame like the student facing problem that you're working on? How do you think about it from a company and personal perspective?
Yeah, it's a good question. We really focus on, I think from an engineering perspective, like let's solve root cause problems. For us, that's why we start so early with our pre-internship, our pre-apprenticeship programs, all really focused on freshmen and sophomore college students and certainly hope to expand from there. But for us, we focus there and we frame it around culture. Culture and culture fit is the number one job selection factor for Gen Z students. We know how important it is. It's also the number one reason people leave jobs is that poor culture fit. Right? So we think about framing that. How do I identify or how do I understand what this culture, this company, this career looks like if I'm just starting my college classes? So we really put that culture-based programming, work-life balance at the front of all of our programs so that students, job seekers can be able to say confidently, all right, this is the major I want to go into. This is the company, this is the career that I can see myself in, because there's not a lot of other avenues for students to get into.
I think it's funny. I'm sitting here thinking like, maybe I should have been an engineer. Listen,
There's
because
still time.
yeah, I don't know about that, but it's funny because similar to Keegan, one of our initial goals was is solving the issue of culture, like cultural fit. I also have some experience with like professional development and training, just training groups of employers and recruiters and things like that. Anyway, and one of the biggest issue when it comes to retention is that issue of cultural fit. So initially we were also going after like one of those as a root cause. Over the last year, we've deviated a little bit to something that Keegan mentioned, and also something what I'm kind of laughing about, like me being an engineer, is the lack of awareness. So students are often entering college not aware of what the possibilities are. Especially students from minority groups. They tend to go after particular career fields because that is what they've seen. And because that's what they've seen is frame their worldview, and it starts to create this path forward for them. So one of the root causes that we are dedicated to solving is just creating awareness around, all right, this is what you see. This is what you know. This is also what you like to do. What are all the potential avenues that are available that can open up for you? And then how can we strategically and and how can we strategically support you along your journey, making sure that you have the skills that are necessary to be competitive as you enter into that job market.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So for this next question, I'd love to like really dig in and get really specific. So what is the gap that you've seen in the job market that you're specifically trying to solve for, and why is that unique from other companies out there?
I think that's a good question. So, like I said, our specific gap within the skilling sector is definitely just the awareness. Like that's our main target is we need to first help a potential candidate or emerging talent, early college student to figure out what these possibilities are, and do it in a way that has minimal lift for them, because transitioning from high school to college is already a bit of a transition. It's almost like it's almost like going from middle school to high school or elementary to middle school, where it's this huge identity transition. So we don't want to create additional barriers to completing college, and we are not meant to replace college. We are meant to supplement and improve that process of learning for a student. So number one is that awareness piece. But then within that, we know that one thing that we've identified is that the job market is super dynamic, meaning that it is changing at lightning speed. And on the university side, they tend to be very stagnant. So how can we create this bridge of just of information between what the university is preparing people with and what is up to date within the industry? So we do that through understanding the skill, regardless of industry, across the board. What are the root skills that are needed? And that is where we are creating the unique solutions around, is identifying that skill, first creating awareness, then identifying those skills, aligning it with that student, and then providing the opportunities that facilitate the development of that skill.
Yeah, I think for us, when we think about that space and how we're serving students and trying to be different than the resources that they have access to, the other organizations, startups, companies that are serving students. There's kind of like this perfect storm from a student standpoint within the education space. We've seen some data, only 40% of college students are leveraging their career fair or their career center resources. Less than 20% of those students who go claim that resource solved their problems to a satisfactory degree, right? So students are hungry and want exposure, want experiences, want to have their problem solved. And then when we look at whether it's a handshake or other folks playing in the professional experience space, a lot of those offerings are for students at the junior, senior level. If you've attended a big state school or even expensive Ivy or private school, you're already investing from a student standpoint tens of thousands of dollars in that education. And for us, it's why wait until you can get that junior, senior experience to actually say, this is what I want to do. I actually got to test out the things I'm learning in the class, and maybe it's a heck no, or maybe it's a heck yes. But we want to bring that experience to students, freshmen, sophomore, first, second year, when they're actually starting to explore those careers. And that's why we see there's such an opportunity to be a differentiator, to be unique, and to actually create something that's impactful for students when they're starting education and when they're starting to think about what happens post-graduation.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I appreciate those explanations. Now I'd like to turn it around a little bit and actually think about it from the student learner perspective. So tell us a little bit about what that experience would be like if I was a student learner using your platform.
Yeah, I think it first starts by making that process, making that experience easy and accessible for students. So we actually go in and partner with universities. We have university partners across the country. Hundreds of thousands of students are seeing these opportunities, and it's really about reaching them where they are. So when they're in front of their career centers, sending emails, connecting with them on social media, whether it's LinkedIn or other ones, so that students can say, okay, here's an opportunity for me to build professional skills, get my resume, get my personal brand in front of employers in my area to say, okay, I'll apply. I get into the pre-internship. Our programs are 3 weeks, typically ahead of that fall and spring career fair, so that going into those sessions, students can say, okay, I found the company and I found the role that I want to apply for. And our companies are able to really expedite and accelerate that process of sourcing and being really confident in saying, okay, these are the interns, the co-ops, the apprentices that we want to hire into our program. So we try to keep it super simple, keep it super accessible. And those 3-week programs means we can be really flexible for students' schedules. They can work on those programs while they're taking classes, working other jobs, and then find that experience, internship, co-op, or apprenticeship afterwards.
Yeah, I think for us, not I think, but for us, we we first get students to simply just sign up. So once we source students directly. We do work with a few universities, but we found that we are able to meet a student where they are directly quicker. So we go straight to the student. Our goal is to get them, as soon as you are accepted into college, we want you to enroll at Culture Lancer as well, or apply to be a part of Culture Lancer as well, because we want you to graduate with a minimum 3 years of experience on your resume. So they sign up, they take an assessment, a very quick assessment. And then with that assessment, it kind of gives them different options, like based on just your internal values, your basic skill level, and your knowledge about different careers and industries. Here are some options that you can take your time and explore. Once they're ready to make a commitment, they select a career path. And then that's when the magic really happens. We give them upskilling opportunities. This is continuous and ongoing until their university, until they no longer have access to their university email account. So this can be between 3 and 5 years post-graduation, which is a whole nother issue that supports early career individuals. But they get upskilled opportunities. These are both soft and hard skills. We help them to optimize their portfolios and their resumes. They get access to a success coach. And then once they complete certain levels within their skills training, we then match them to partners. So our partners we work with the partners to develop these strategic 90-day projects where we infuse the talent. So that's where the students actually get their hands-on skill and experience. They're able to build their portfolios, like I mentioned, and really have evidence of they have 3 years of experience so that they're more competitive when they enter into the market.
Thank you. Wow. It sounds like a really amazing experience for the student or learner. And actually, kind of to that point, I'd love to hear a success story from each of you. Just what does that look like when someone's really successful on your platform?
Yeah, so for us, because we start with students early, right? We haven't had a lot that have finished throughout the program, but we do have 2 that I'm really excited about. One who was actually a graduate student, and she was hired with a pet tech startup out of Florida to do some accounting work. Her goal was eventually to get into fintech, but she had no experience with any technology company. And so we looked at that as an opportunity, one, to exercise her current university education, which was in accounting, as well as seeing the tech side of things. So she was hired multiple times with that employer, which we thought was a success case. She's still in graduate school to this day, and she still engages with us. And then we had another individual who initially he wanted to do business development for sports teams. So unfortunately, we're not at the point where, we have MBA in our back pocket, but we did have a sports tech startup. So we were able to connect him with this sports tech startup to support on some business development initiatives. And he also, once he graduated his undergraduate, he still does project-based work with him as well. So that was something that we were excited and proud about.
I love that, Brianna. Congrats. That's like awesome. Right? It's why we do this work. I think certainly for us at Internship on Demand, it's like the work that we get to do with students, putting them into internships, careers. We've been lucky enough now 2 years about running student-facing programming to have students who are, finished our programs, gotten an internship, and are now in full-time jobs. And it's really awesome to be able to have those conversations, check in with students. And I think for us, that's why we like to do what we do. I think broadly, we started Internship on Demand with this bet that if we made professional experience, we made connection to careers and companies, that we'd be able to just improve access. We'd see more students who are typically left out of those professional experiences actually finding them, especially in engineering and tech. It looks a lot like me, right? So being able to broaden that, we've seen that, right? Nearly 60% of the students on our programming identify as minority or women. So it's been awesome to put those professional experiences in front of students. About 65% of the students on our platform found their first professional experience through Internship on Demand. So they're going from waiting tables, taking care of family, doing things outside of maybe it's engineering, marketing, or tech, and we're able to put them into those careers. And from a specific standpoint, one of our employer partners, Johnson Financial Group, was able to hire an intern out of our pre-internship program. So they'll be starting in actually the next couple of weeks here, 2024. So excited to work with them about that placement. Students who may not have thought about information technology with a regional bank like Johnson Financial Group as their career path. And now we're able to put them there, see them succeed as that entry-level candidate.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Well, and I'd also love to know, just for two people who are in it every day, who are working on this education to career bridge, what does the future of this look like to you? What does the future of education to career look like to two entrepreneurs who are kind of in it every day and working to solve these problems every day?
Yeah. Awesome question. I'm sure we could fill hours talking on that topic. I think for us, it's really about bringing career connected learning closer together. I think it becomes, instead of I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna learn how to be a mechanical engineer at all of these different organizations, is that there's a lot closer connection to saying, in whether it's an industry like electric vehicles, AI, product development, that you can start on that path with specific companies in mind when you start education. I think we're really big believers in that space. You shouldn't have to graduate and then actually learn the skills you need on the job at a specific company. That can start right away when you start education, or maybe it's even outside of that traditional college space. That's for us, Brianna, from you.
Yeah, for sure. The future looks like 0%, 0% in terms of underemployment and unemployment. That would be ideal. I know that that's a long road ahead, but that's what we're working toward, is to really, dwindle down that number as low as possible. But more than that, I also think about agility. I'm really connected to that word lately. And I just want to, because like I mentioned earlier, the workforce is so dynamic and it's ever changing. Just in the last years, we've seen roles disappear completely and new jobs created seemingly overnight. So creating a workforce that is agile with the skills that are necessary and that can translate regardless of if a role is here today and gone tomorrow is super important for us. So what we see in the future is creating more agility in the future work. And with that, they can leverage They can leverage their skill, they can leverage their ability, they can really own a conversation and own just that whole interview process, because they're coming in with so much value. I mean, at the end of the day, when we look at talent, they're human capital. So if companies and the talent need to be more aware of, the talent is the human capital. They drive the capital, they drive the revenue, they drive the success of a business. So also just giving future employees that sense of authority over their skill set is important to us as well.
Awesome. So great to hear your perspectives. Love that. Thank you. And I just have one final question before we close up. Why did you both decide to join the JFFLabs Accelerator program?
Yeah, I mean, well, that is a question I feel like doesn't even need to be asked, because JFF is doing so much important work with just the future work itself. And we thought that it would be super impactful just for us to kind of get thrown into all of the information that's available around the space, and really figure out, like, how could we use this to build better companies, build more sustainable companies, but also making sure that we are mission focused, first, and supporting, the groups that we are looking to support. And we felt like JFF was 100% in alignment with that. And it doesn't hurt that we have the stamp of approval from JFF.
Yeah, I think similarly the stamp of approval and trust from JFF certainly goes a long way. I think as a first-time entrepreneur myself, the connection to peers, to Heather, you being an entrepreneur yourself who's exited in this space, gives us a lot of ability to ask questions, be transparent, be honest, and learn a ton. I also think we know that the flywheel for professional development and making sure that the experiences can scale and grow means every stakeholder needs to be bought in and really seeing successes from learners as well as the employers and the university space. And we're starting to make headway on that. JFF, the companies that they've helped, have been doing that for a lot longer than we have. So to be able to build on that, to be able to build that flywheel ourselves and for our stakeholders really means a lot. And we've been able to do that. Program's short, we've got a lot of ways to go, but I think even moving forward from here, the connections, the mentorship, the relationships we've been able to build with our other founders has been awesome. And we're excited to apply that, excited to see the growth and the impact from the other founders in this accelerator.
Yeah.
Thank you both so much. I know I speak for Lauren and myself when I say we have loved getting to know you and learning about your companies and just kind of being a little bit a part of your journey. So that's been super rewarding and inspiring for us. And thank you for letting us to be a part of this journey. Thank you everyone here for joining us at LinkedIn Live. This has been super fun. And I hope you'll check out jff.org and see about all the other things that we have going on. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Heather.